It's 11 p.m. and these are the headlines. President Abdelmajid Tebboune sent a message of condolence today to the family of Felix Koulouzi, a friend of the Algerian Revolution who passed away at the age of 95. During the 38th summit of the African Union held in Addis Ababa, Algeria reiterated its full commitment in favor of Africa, with several actions for a unified continent. And from Tunisia, and during the Arab Interior Ministers' Council meeting, Interior Minister Mourad reaffirmed Algeria's willingness in supporting the joint Arab action and take part in different positive initiatives. With expanded production, Algeria is strengthening its economic and developmental ties with African nations, mainly through the new Trans-Saharan Highway. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's news. President Abdelmajid Tebboune sent a message of condolence today to the family of Felix Koulouzi, a friend of the Algerian Revolution who passed away at the age of 95. In his message, the president expressed a deep sorrow over his passing, recalling his dedication to Algeria's liberation struggle. Koulouzi joined the revolution from its early days, firmly believing in the justice of the Algerian people's fight against colonial rule. He endured imprisonment in Serkaji and Lambez and in France before making Algeria his home, where he was granted citizenship and held key positions in national institutions. The president continued with his message, expressing his heartfelt condolences to the family of the late and fellow veterans, praying and offering them strength in this time of grief. To Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. And the major event gathering Africa and the Ethiopian capital, the 38th summit of the African Union, was the occasion for Algeria to reiterate its full commitment in favor of Africa, which promotes unity, prosperity and sovereignty, as reaffirmed by the head of state. Manal Afa reports.
The 38th African Summit held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, marks a significant step for Algeria on the continental scene. Our country reaffirmed its commitment in favor of the African continent via several actions and initiatives as a pivotal state supporting the African Renaissance, notably via the promotion of peace, security and economic development in the continent. This leadership is backed by a proactive and historic diplomacy practiced under the aegis of the head of state Abdelmajid Tebboune, a diplomacy which advocates for a united Africa, prosperous and sovereign, far from any foreign interference.
أود هنا أن أؤكد مجددا التزام الجزائر كدولة مؤسسة لهذه الآلية بالحرص على تفعيل دورها في مواجهة التحديات الراهنة، لا سيما فيما يتعلق بترسيخ سيادة القانون ومكافحة الفساد وتعزيز العدالة الاجتماعية وحقوق الإنسان، وهي تحديات تفرض علينا العمل بروح من التضامن والمسؤولية لتجاوز الصعوبات المالية التي تحد من قدرة الآلية الإفريقية للتقييم من قبل النظراء على تحقيق الأهداف السامية التي أنشئت من أجلها.
Algeria's commitment toward Africa was also underscored via a financial contribution of $1 million for the African peer review mechanism.
انطلاقا من التزام الجزائر بدعم الآلية وتمكينها من أداء مهامها، قررت بلادي تقديم مساهمة طوعية بقيمة $1 مليون أمريكي لدعم عملية التقييم وتنفيذ التوصيات المنبثقة عنها.
The President of the Republic hailed the creation of the African Rating Agency, representing a significant leap and a new milestone for African economic development, and will have undoubtedly a positive impact for all the African countries, an essential step toward financial autonomy and the consolidation of economic sovereignty as promoted by Algeria. So many achievements enable Africa to speak with one voice to defend its interests, relying on intra-African cooperation and effective coordination to free the continent from all forms of dependence and exploitation.
And in implementation of the decision of the President of the Republic to grant a financial contribution of $1 million to support the activities and programs of the African Peer Review Mechanism, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Salma Bakhta Mansouri, responsible for African Affairs, along with the Executive Director of the African Peer Review Mechanism, Marie-Antoinette Rose-Carter. On this occasion, the contribution reaffirms Algeria's commitment as a founding country of the mechanism, reflecting the vision of the President of the Republic to enhance governance in Africa, in particular in facing the challenges confronting the continent, with Algeria remaining committed to strengthening the rule of law, combating corruption and promoting democratic values. Algeria has made a new achievement on the diplomatic stage with the election of Salma Malika Haddadi, ambassador to Addis Ababa and permanent representative to the African Union, as vice president of the African Union Commission. Najah Tayyar has the details.
Algeria today realized another diplomatic achievement and has strengthened its diplomatic influence on the African stage. Salma Malika Haddadi, Algeria's ambassador to Addis Ababa and permanent representative to the African Union, secured a decisive victory over her Moroccan rival, winning the position of deputy chairperson of the AU Commission with a total of 33 votes. This selection underscores Algeria's growing prominence within the continental institutions and comes at a time when the country is actively advocating for greater African autonomy. Algeria is now set to play a crucial role in the AU's strategic decision-making, working to promote a vision for Africa that aligns with its diplomatic priorities. With her expertise and experience, Haddadi embodies Algeria's dedication to a stronger and a more independent African Union, reinforcing its leadership within the continent's governance structures. This election reflects Algeria's place and depth in Africa. It also testifies to the trust placed by African countries in Algeria and its judicious leadership. Algeria has always played a leading role in the organization of African unity. Now, the African Union, we will continue this work to raise its name and flag through our far-sighted leadership of the organization, both administratively and financially. We will always live up to the expectations. My victory as Vice Chair of the AU Commission was a new achievement for Algeria under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. Salma Malika Haddadi, as Vice Chair, will oversee the AU Commission's administrative functions, ensuring efficient operations. A key part of her role will be supervising budget allocations and guaranteeing the proper distribution of funds designated for various AU programs. Her main objective is to foster trust and synergy between the Commission and the AU member states, helping the organization successfully implement its programs and fulfill the aspirations outlined in Agenda 2063. Beyond the international management, this mandate will also solidify Algeria's position as a major player in African governance.
In Addis Ababa, Algeria's Minister of the Environment and Quality of Life, Najiba Jilali, reaffirmed the country's commitment to combating the climate change as part of its economic recovery plan for green growth. Representing the President of the Republic, she stressed the urgent need to counter climate impact on African economies. She highlighted that this summit is taking place amid a critical climate context, with geopolitical and economic conflicts exacerbating risks such as drought, desertification, floods and wildfires, all contributing to displacement, migration and food crises across the continent. Prime Minister Nadil Arbawi presided over the 193rd session of the Council of State Holdings, which focused on the continued transfer for fee of confiscated movable and immovable assets to public institutions and organizations. These assets were seized through final judicial rulings in corruption-related cases. During the meeting, emphasis was placed on accelerating necessary measures to ensure the optimal use of transferred production units for the benefit of the national economy, in line with the directives of the President of the Republic. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, National Committee Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, held a phone talk today with Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. Minister Attaf received a phone call from PM Salam following his official visit to Beirut as special envoy of the President of the Republic. During the call, the two officials addressed the situation in southern Lebanon, in particular the implementation of the ceasefire and the withdrawal of Zionist occupation forces from Lebanese territory. Mr. Attaf reiterated Algeria's full solidarity with Lebanon in the face of ongoing violations of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. He also emphasized Algeria's readiness to continue its support for Lebanon, especially through its position in the United Nations Security Council. The Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Regional Planning, Brahim Ouad, indicated in his speech during his participation in the Council of Arab Interior Ministers meeting held in Tunisia, Algeria's readiness to take part in positive initiatives aimed at facing security threats, evoking Algeria's successful experience in the fight against terrorism. Reported by Zakaria Mihobi, taken up by Melissa Kibash.
During his participation at the 42nd session of the Council of Arab Interior Ministers, Interior Minister Brahim Merad underlined that this meeting came at a time where the Arab region is faced with immense security challenges that obliges the Arab countries to adapt to this new situation and work to find solutions.
You should all be aware that the continued deterioration of the political, security and social situation in the Sahel region has contributed in the weakening of the current situation and has strengthened the activity of the terrorist groups in the region. Therefore, putting an end to this dangerous scourge requires the intensification of efforts and coordination both nationally and regionally. Regarding this, my country is always ready to share its successful experience in the fight against terrorism with brotherly Arab countries and renews at every opportunity its willingness to continue the joint work at the Arab and regional levels in order to eradicate this phenomenon.
Beyond traditional terrorist activities, Algeria also emphasized the growing threat of cyber crimes, as well as the decision taken by the President to protect information systems from any threat.
Faced with this situation and aware of the current challenges, my country is working to strengthen the foundations of cybersecurity, particularly with the decision taken by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to create a national body for the protection of information systems, which includes the National Council for the Security of Information Systems and the Information Systems Security Agency. Algeria is also continuing its efforts in this area through a national strategy for the security of information systems in coordination with various bodies concerned, in addition to working to introduce cybersecurity into national education programs.
A unified Arab action is essential to face all kinds of threats. As Algeria was clear, only through collective action and shared commitment can Arab nations effectively safeguard the security and stability of the region.
And on the sidelines of its participation in the 42nd session of the Arab Interior Ministers' Council, the Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Regional Planning, Brahim Ouad, along with the Arab Interior Ministers, was received today by Tunisian President Kais Saied. The Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Regional Planning, Brahim Ouad, held several meetings with his counterparts. Participating in the session, he spoke with Tunisian Interior Minister Khalid Al-Nouri and Libyan Interior Minister General Mustafa Imad Al-Tarabulsi. He also met with Palestinian Interior Minister Ziad Habrih and Yemeni Interior Minister Ibrahim Ali Ahmed Abd Hidan, as well as Portuguese Interior Minister Margarida Blasco and Somali Minister Abdullah Sheikh Ismail. The minister held also talks with Mohammed Ali Quman, the Secretary General of the Council of Arab Interior Ministers. In recognition of Algeria's diplomatic approach based on resilience and resistance, the Tunis Science and Technology Development Foundation honored the war veteran and former diplomat Ahmed Talib Ibrahimi. The ceremony, attended by intellectuals, academics and journalists from Algeria and Tunisia, underscored his enduring influence in international diplomatic events. It also served as a moment to reflect on the shared struggle of both nations for independence, development and partnership as well. The Secretary of State for National Community Abouad, Soufiane Chehib, joined a virtual meeting organized by the Algerian Consulate in Frankfurt with the Algerian Doctors Association in Germany. The discussions focused on medical investment in Algeria and involving diaspora in the sector's development. Chehib highlighted President Tebboun's commitment to engage in Algerian professionals abroad and stressed the government support for initiatives connecting doctors at home and abroad. And with expanded production, Algeria is strengthening its economic and developmental ties with African nations, reaffirming its commitment to supporting economic integration within the continental market, mainly through the new Trans-Saharan Highway. Manamafa reports.
With its strategic location, Algeria has led the Trans-Saharan Highway project, financing and executing large sections to ensure its resilience against the Sahara's harsh conditions. More than just a road, it is a vital economic artery strengthening Algeria's African ties. A strategic fiber optic network alongside the highway has made it a key digital corridor linking North and Sub-Saharan Africa. Algeria's commitment to regional integration continues with projects like the Zouirat Road, a crucial gateway to West Africa. It is one of the vital strategic roads that opens new and promising prospects for cooperation between Mauritania and Algeria, while also contributing to development in West Africa and have access to the border African interior. It is the economic lifeline that will play a major role, first in the economic terms and second in strengthening family ties, connecting the Algerian and Mauritanian communities while also extending further into West Africa. Algeria solidifies its role as a key force in Africa's renaissance, driving sustainable and inclusive development that benefits the entire continent.
On the international scene, we will tackle in this topic an affair that has escalated into a full political crisis, leaving the French Prime Minister isolated under mounting pressure to resign. Najah Tayar has the details.
The Betaram affair, ignited by Mediapart's revelations, has swiftly turned from a quiet whisper into a political and judicial storm. François Bayrou, former education minister and current prime minister, is at its heart, and the state's silence has only intensified the controversy, fueling public outrage. The full consequences of this scandal remain to be seen. Obviously, I've never been informed of any violence or sexual violence whatsoever.
Quoi que ce soit de violence ou de violence a fortiori sexuelle, jamais.
On the executive side, the scandal went completely unmentioned in the Council of Ministers. This point was not raised in the Council of Ministers this morning. François Bayrou's defense crumbled as Mediapart's revelations exposed his contradictions. Once insisting he knew nothing, he was confronted with undeniable facts, ignored letters, quiet meetings with the justice system, and political cover for a corrupted institution. The House of Cards had fallen, and the victims were finally received. I feel that I'm dealing with a case of general national interest involving 5 million people who were abused as children by adults.
Dans leur enfance, abusés par des adultes.
The meeting that followed proved to be a challenging confrontation for the French Prime Minister. I didn't say that it was fabricated controversy, I said I didn't know. Meanwhile, protests grew outside the school, denouncing the public authorities' indifference. The silence was not the act of single men. When a mosque, for example, has some dubious preaching, what do you generally do? Close it down, put it under judicial supervision, and we communicate really well on this. So that's the question I put to Bruno Retailleau. How is it that our Minister of the Interior and Minister for Religious Affairs can at some point allow an organization like this to go unpunished? Since then, the pressure has mounted in the French National Assembly, where alleged lies have only added to the facts. Demands for a political response have intensified, with calls for his resignation growing louder. If it turns out that the Prime Minister did indeed lie, he must bear the consequences, and I can see no other consequence than to leave with his head down. Once we have a Prime Minister who's going to lie to the French, who's going to lie to the national representation, then yes, there is a scandal behind it. This is an additional and very serious reason for all the parliamentaries to vote for no confidence, which becomes a shield for the MPs in the face of the Prime Minister's perjury. Having survived a motion of censure with the support of the National Assembly, François Bayrou is making a last-ditch effort. The Betaram affair has outgrown him, and what began as a ministerial scandal now threatens the very foundations of power. And as pressure mounts on the executive, silence and unease grip the Élysée, where anticipation hangs heavy. Meanwhile, the once unshakable Prime Minister stands isolated, surrounded by revelations and doubt.
And Moroccan political and labor groups have denounced the government's policies, blaming them for deepening social unrest, economic stagnation and worsening living conditions. Calls are growing for urgent reforms to address corruption, economic mismanagement and the widening gap between the ruling elite and the people. Football news: CR Belouizdad defeated MC Algiers 1-0 in the Algiers Cup Round 16, held tonight at the 5th of July Olympic Stadium. Congratulations.
في انطلاقة صعبة لعناصر فريق شباب بلوزداد. محيوص في الصراع رفقة غزالة، خطفها محيوص، خطيرة خطيرة خطيرة. خطفها القناص من محيوص ومنح الأسبقية لفريق شباب بلوزداد في غفلة دفاعية من جانب، والكرة فاتت اللاعب زكريا نعيجي وتحول.
Algerian cyclist Mohamed Najib Assal won the 8th stage of the 2025 Tour of Algeria, covering 197 kilometers from Laghouat to Ghardaïa provinces in 3 hours, 52 minutes and 10 seconds. He finished ahead of Yassine Hamza and Hamza Amari, who clocked at the same time. Hamza retains yellow jersey of the overall leader, green jersey of the best sprinter and red jersey as best Algerian rider, while Assal claims the blue jersey as a stage winner. And that was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.